Hello and welcome to Business Zone, where we'll bring you trending business stories across the continent. I am Tolulokpe Ogunjobi. Welcome. Now, major players in the electricity sector in West Africa will meet in Burkina Faso, capital of Ouagadougou, on November the 16th to consider agenda for regional electricity market. ECOWAS Regional Electricity Regulatory Authority said the forum promotes cooperation and information sharing among member states. Chairman of the agency, Honor Bogla, said electricity regulation remained largely unknown to West African authorities. He disclosed that the forum can help regulators to convince policymakers to understand how regulation of the power sector could address development challenges in Africa. The regional body, headquartered in Accra, Ghana, targets increase of renewable energy to 31% of total regional energy mix, while also planning 100% access to sustainable energy by 2030. Meanwhile, Germany is planning to help bolster economies in Africa by creating jobs and slow the flow of migrants from the continent to Europe. Therefore, it is urging other developed countries to support the move. Development Minister Gerd Müller said Germany would, in coming weeks, release details of what he called a new Marshall Plan, with Africa drawing a direct parallel with the U.S. investment program that kickstarts the ravaged German economy after World War II. Müller noted that the issue of migration needs to be recognized by international community, and Africa should have a representation on the UN Security Council. He says his plans was aimed at developing joint solutions with African countries with a big focus on programs for youth, education, and training on strengthening economies and the rule of law. The Kenyan electricity generating company's debt level has dropped to a 5-year low, giving the power firm headroom to chuck up more loans for financing of new projects. The drop in debt level was helped by the June rights issued that saw Ken's debt to equity ratio drop. The listed power producer gearing ratio, the proportion of the debt to equity, dropped to 43% as at June 2016, from a high of 94% in 2011. The Kenyan's managing director, Albert Mugo, said the company is in talks with development finance institution to fund its multi-billion-dollar pipeline of projects, expected to deliver an additional 706 megawatts by the year 2020. Kenya's coffee farmers are now roasting more coffee beans exports, moving fast to double earnings. The farmers are also being encouraged to link up with foreign partners who can help in locating offshore markets. Kenya produced 45,000 tons of coffee beans in 2015-2016 season, while farmers have planned to raise the 2016-2017 season output to 50,000 tons of coffee beans. The Agriculture Ministry says the amount of coffee roasted locally is expected to go up by 10% annually over the next 5 years. Now, accountants in Nigeria have urged all relevant government agencies and parastatals to comply with the Treasury Single Account Initiative of the federal government. ICANN members at a seminar organized with focus on understanding, identifying and profiling solutions to the challenges confronting the proper implementation of the TSA policy explained that it provides government with an opportunity to know at a glance the amount of money accrued to it from different revenue-generating agencies. They believe this would help curb corruption and improve accountability in the finances of the government. They stress that every new policy comes with challenges, adding that with time, the bottlenecks will become history.
Expect all the users, all the stakeholders to have a perfect understanding of what TSA is all about. But most importantly, what people should focus on is the definition, the usefulness of the TSA. TSA is simply a cash management tool. Using it to check malpractices, corruption, leakages, all those are collateral additions, collateral benefits.
Government had been paying a lot of overdraft charges and all that, but when the account is now consolidated in one particular area, then it is realized that government does not have to pay a kobo to any bank now. So those are some of the advantages. So it's a consolidation tool for government, for it to be able to assess at any particular point in time what amount it has with all these various agencies.
System that will not have one challenge or the other. But the most important thing is that as the challenges come, we find solutions and move forward. What I think the government can do is to make sure that there is no policy somersaults. That's to say that let's operate this system for a fairly long time. For the accountant, I believe that it is a way, especially who are managing the government funds, it is a way for them to be able to be in charge, in control, more than they have been before.
Nigeria's Vice President Yemi Osinbajo says the federal government is committed to creating the needed environment for more public-private partnership deals that will help improve infrastructure and help bring the country out of recession. The VP was speaking during his visit to the Nigerian Stock Exchange last week, Friday. Details in this report.
In its almost 40 years as a corporate institution, the Nigerian Stock Exchange has proved to be the vital link for private sector interventions. The importance of the exchange was reinforced with the VP's visit. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo arrived at the gallery in company of the chairman and the chief executive officer of the NSE, Aliko Dangote, and captains of the private sector. He later rang the closing bell. Vice President Osinbajo spoke to journalists on his mission at the exchange.
What we're trying to do is to create an enabling environment for industry and for business. And that's a whole lot of things. First, we're trying to work on infrastructure, which is very important. We're also trying to work on the whole, tax incentives, all manner of other an incentive regime that would enable businesses to do better. Of course, what the immediate challenges are: foreign exchange, power in some cases, and all of that. But all of these are issues that we're working on a day-by-day basis, really. And my interaction today with the council has also helped a great deal in trying to understand some of the more immediate issues that they have to confront, and trying to see how we can deal with those. Essentially, what it is that we all recognize that that this is a partnership, private sector and government. Government being merely a regulator and a partner in ensuring that the private sector does business and does it well and efficiently. Because the private sector owns the economy. So for us, this is an important engagement, and this is why I'm here.
As at June, the exchange had about 180 listed companies. This paltry number in a major economy like Nigeria has been a worrisome issue, made even more worrying by the non-listing of some privatized companies.
I think the most important thing is that there is engagement already on listings. As you know, several major companies have already indicated that they want to be listed on the stock exchange. And I think that for privatized companies, because they are privatized, the decision is not necessarily the decision of government. The decision has to be the decision of the new owners. So really, it isn't government that necessarily decides to privatize, to list privatized companies. But we are fully ready to have to encourage listings in the foreign exchange and in the stock exchange. It is the stock exchange that is, an important driver of economic activity, an important driver of investment. So for the federal government, that is an absolute necessity. I don't think that there is any need to wonder whether the federal government would be interested or would want to enable listings, but we certainly want to encourage it. One of the reasons why I'm here is exactly to do so, to promote interest in the market, and the federal government certainly is keen on doing so.
Everyone here is confident the Nigerian stock market can provide the needed platform to revamp the economy if properly harnessed.
Nigeria's vice president there and the top arrowheads of the private sector and also the Nigerian capital market. Well, let's go on a break now and we'll be back with more on Business Zone. Stay with us. Well, thanks for staying with us. You're still watching Business Zone. Now more in the news. The Nigerian capital market got a boost last week when the country's vice president visited. He wooed investors to the exchange and promised an enabling environment for businesses to thrive. Well, we did focus on this earlier, and I spoke to an investment analyst, Olanrewaju Ogunlana, who has this to say.
Very importantly, the VP visit to the exchange is long overdue. As a matter of fact, I think that he should have visited in the first few months of his assumption. But that notwithstanding, it's never too late. It's a step in the right direction. As you must be aware that the market is all about perception. Once the market has good perception, then you can see inflow of investors from the stock market. And having a big boost from the number 2 citizen of the country, technically the coordinator of the economy, I think is a welcome development. And you can see with the market reaction, it's quite positive. But we need more than that. It's a marathon race, and we cannot achieve this doing a sprint run. So the Nigerian capital market, we actually have the capacity to actually fund such infrastructure projects. There is a lot of regulatory framework that has been also highlighted by the regulators. Example is the infrastructure funds. Last year, the Securities and Exchange Commission, they actually released a framework for fundraising for capital project infrastructures on the capital market. But we need government to come up with structures. We need government to come up with projects. You know, it's not enough or to say, oh, this is what we want to do. We need investment bankers, capital market firms, operators, and even the government to come together and actually structure transactions in order to exploit the capacity available in the capital market. If you want to do a scale of reference, you know, in this time of recession, people have to cut a lot of things, and then you want to ask yourself, buying equities, is that the next thing an average investors want to do right now in the time of recession? Then I would say, for the retail investors, I would say no. But at the same time, if you have to look at this, the market is down. Many stocks are actually on the price. This is the best time for us to go into the market. Like the Chinese proverb that says that the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The next best time is today. We should not wait until the recession is over before we start putting things in place to assess the market. The time is now to assess the market. There's so many foreign portfolio investors and foreign investments that are sitting on the fence. They want to bring in money. Nigerian market is still a very stable ground for investment. Despite the recession, we need to domesticate production within the economy, and we need to encourage sectors, companies in sectors that need to boost local production. And I can assure you that with inflow of funds into the market, those local companies will be able to compete and also actually bridge the gap of the forex issues we are currently having now.
Olanrewaju Ogunlana there, an investment analyst who spoke to us earlier on the impact of the vice president, that's Nigeria's vice president, visit to the Nigerian stock market, talking about investors' confidence and other issues affecting the fundamentals of the market. Staying in Nigeria, the Minister of Power, Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, says the problems confronting the power sector are not technical but man-made. He stated this during an interactive session with top media executives to mark his 1 year in office.
Nationwide, because
exactly 1 year when he took over the saddle as a minister of 3 major ministries, the former Lagos governor is back home to give account of his stewardship. Babatunde Fashola's state of play speech was more like setting the record straight. He and his team explained what they met where they are, and what next. For roads, he says the ministry chose roads to rehabilitate based on economic importance and geopolitical consideration. Fashola further stated that despite paucity of funds, contractors returned to site because of trust, as so far about 124 billion naira has been disbursed for highway projects.
Our choices of which roads to start work on were determined by roads that carried the heaviest cargo. The roads that allowed farmers, businessmen, and industries and travelers to move their goods and themselves across the country in order to drive productivity. That's what we wanted to achieve. We can't do every road. We had to do some roads very quickly. We also chose roads that supported our energy sufficiency and put our resources in those roads that led to our petroleum tank farms.
Concerned just like every Nigerian, the minister was open and frank about the power sector. Fashola was quick to add that the issues bedeviling the sector are man-made and Nigerians need to be patient with the privatization of the sector, which is barely 3 years old. The super minister listed militancy and corruption as some, especially the years of neglect of the sector.
We got here partly because of rainfall, because we were able to push our hydro dams. But we wouldn't have got here in spite of the rainfall if we hadn't done what we've done. You might recall that earlier in the year I went to Jeba to commission one of the refurbished turbines. The Jeba turbine, none of the Jeba turbines had been maintained in terms of, the prescribed is 6-yearly turnaround maintenance for Jeba. Since President Buhari commissioned it in 1985, it has not undergone a turnaround maintenance. So that was the first time when he came back.
Housing is another ministry the minister believes there are so many fire-carrying consultants than real contractors. Fashola says the ministry will build 500 units of houses and assures all items to be used for construction will be made in Nigeria.
Housing deficit will not disappear, but we would have built a system to attack it. A system that will work almost like the pension fund.
With 3 years to go, Fashola says a lot needs to be done. The former governor believes if all the ministries are adequately funded, most of the challenges in the works, power and housing sectors will be 60% solved.
Now, more Namibian farmers have become beneficiaries of the South-to-South Cooperation SSC agreement, which has brought more Chinese experts to the African country to teach farmers technologies. The SSC agreement was launched in 2014 to boost agricultural production and tackle food and nutrition insecurity in Namibia. This has seen farmers from the northeast Zambezi region gain and benefit to become more self-sustaining. The $1.5 million SSC agreement signed by Namibia, China and the Food and Agriculture Organization will run for 2 years. Ethiopia's tourism revenue has taken a massive dip in the wake of anti-government protests that started a year ago. The Horn of Africa's country is projected to lose about $400 million from tourism in the current budget year. Report says millions of dollars have been lost in tourism revenue. Income from that sector has fallen by more than $7 million over the last quarter alone. Now, the country plans to generate $3 billion from tourism this year, but the current shortfall has forced the government to revise its targets. The government declared a 6-month-long state of emergency in October as part of efforts to quell the protest. Ethiopia is the preferred tourist destination for people from around the world. It is estimated that in 2015, over 900,000 tourists visited Ethiopia, as famous for its rock-hewn churches, highlands, and national parks. Zambia's finance minister has presented a $6.6 billion budget to Parliament. The 2017 budget contains proposed measures aimed at curbing the country's budget deficit at a time when commodity price slumps have forced mine closures in the country, as well as caused the rise in unemployment and food prices. Finance Minister says the country would cut its fiscal deficit to 7% of gross domestic product in 2017 from 2016 projection of 10%. Zambia's economy is expected to grow 3.4% in 2017 from the current 3%. But the finance minister cautioned that the economic environment in which the 2017 budget will be implemented will be challenging. Now, oil prices stayed mixed in the international market on Monday as dealers study global impact of political developments in America. Well, at the London market, the Brent crude trades lower at $44. Well, that came up last week. The prospect of American opening new oil fields and pumping up crude from reserves gives concerns to market watchers. And looking at the OPEC basket group, the oil price heats up at $42 per barrel. That's our package for you today on Business Zone. Join us another time for more insightful stories and also analysis. I am Tolulope Ogujobi. I leave you with the graphics and the figures of the exchange rates as it stands today. On behalf of the entire production crew, thank you for watching.